and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you feeling sad today? Well, don't be sad, because sad spelled backwards is das, and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you feeling sad today? Well, don't be sad, because sad spelled backwards is das, and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you feeling sad today? Well, don't be sad, because sad spelled backwards is das, and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you feeling sad today? Well, don't be sad, because sad spelled backwards is das, and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you feeling sad today? Well, don't be sad, because sad spelled backwards is das, and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you feeling sad today? Well, don't be sad, because sad spelled backwards is das, and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you feeling sad today? Well, don't be sad, because sad spelled backwards is das, and that's not good. So please smile. Hey friend, are you...
Little kid. I'm going to text Ham. I told him I wasn't going to do a live today, but I've been asked to do it, and or if I'm going to, and I'll do it. I'm going to stop answering any questions I don't want to, and that's just the way it's going to be. I'm not going to feel any need to answer any questions so that it shows like I'm being even-handed or trying to see the other side or whatever. And that's just how it's going to be. I'm not going to answer all the questions anymore. Let's see. Deuterino. Vincent was first. Narad was second, except Mark showed up. This thing is so, it's already freezing. So maybe I'll just have to put the mouse aside for a second. It's not working. John, I see there, I can't highlight it because my mouse won't work. So we'll just have to wait. Wait till the computer does whatever. There, maybe it's there. No. Mouse isn't working, so we'll leave this number 2 up. That'll be our key thing. I am hearing, by the way, and it has nothing to do with yesterday's question. I am hearing some things about GTII that might mean I say to you, hey, let's look at it again. No news on HNRC, no news on Logic. Both of those are 2.5 cents or lower. CAUD is 104. No news there. GTII 31. NVIDIA is up 100. And CRTD was up earlier, but I wouldn't go chasing that. I really wouldn't. But I'm not telling you. Do what you want to do. GDC is 211. And what else is here that you're interested in? Oh, ZJYL. I don't think it's doing much. It's down 43 at 802. The graph I did, which is over here, I think, still hasn't been violated. Yeah, there it is. I'll use a yellow. And I don't know which one to use. I would say this bigger one is more important. Anyway, whatever. it's got support there. And I don't know which triangle to use, this one or that one. I would say this one's more important. But you can also see that if it continues to go sideways, that's effectively a breakdown, depending on how far it goes. So there's risk in ZJYL. But having said that, I don't think it's going to break down. And I think it's the best. It's the best stock we have for a sudden upward move today or sometime next week. I doubt it'll run on a Friday is my guess because of everyone away from their desks. John, my mouse isn't working, so I can't highlight anybody. I can't move my mouse. Maybe when Ham comes on, I can go see if I have other. Maybe it's not the battery. What? Let me use a different. Something underneath maybe will be. I don't know. I think it's frozen. So that's not good. Now it's saying connected. Ah, there. That took a long time. All right, let me. Well, you know what I want to do first? This is one of the books that I got on gold, written by Charles Goyette and Bill Haynes, somebody that I followed. I don't have all my library of books with me, and I haven't read this in a while, but I thought it's important that we start thinking about gold. So this book came out. It's called The Last Gold Rush Ever, and it came out in 2022 by Charles Goyette and Bill Haynes, and the foreword's by David Stockman. And it, you know what, when I read this, it'll sound urgent, which it is, but it also shows that there's probably time, because the huge weight of the system and of the banks and of powers that be are pushing against this. I also think China has not accumulated all the gold they want to accumulate before the system changes. Anyway, it's only it's like 4 pages long. It's not very long. So David Stockman says, America's now crumbling empire of debt, like Rome itself, was not built in a day. There's another book out there called Empire of Debt, which I have somewhere. I read it, maybe it was written by Bill Haynes. Can't remember. Anyway, on October 1, 1982, day one of Ronald Reagan's first full budget year, I told the House Budget Committee that if fiscal sanity was to prevail, they were doomed to spend the rest of their careers cutting spending. After years of Lyndon Johnson's Great Society and the Nixon-Ford welfare programs that sought to outdo LBJ, it fell to me as the director of the Office of Management and Budget to explain the facts of economic life, even and perhaps especially to old Washington hands. There is no final vote, I warned. 30 years of history aren't going to be corrected in 20 weeks. In fact, as I soon discovered, nothing at all was going to be corrected. That's years before. Sorry, my mistake. It's my eyesight. That year's deficit broke for the first time into what in the billion here, billion there era we called triple digits, more than 100 billion. In fact, it didn't just break into triple digit territory, it crashed right through, rolled over a few times, and landed in a ditch. That year, the deficit totaled, that's the deficit, totaled 128 billion. That was the end of that. So that would have been 1983. The next year, it was 208 billion. At the same time, the gross national debt surged past $1 trillion. By the time I left Washington for Wall Street a few years later, I hoped only that catastrophe could be avoided. But fiscal sanity did not prevail. Now, in the brave new world of $3 trillion and $4 trillion deficits, America is being turned into a coast-to-coast soup line. This is David Stockman. But of course, the debt couldn't have grown to such gargantuan proportions in a sound money environment. Nixon's taking the US off the gold standard 11 years earlier was the enabling act for the most massive monetary corruption and money printing spree that would follow at the hands of Keynesian icons at the Federal Reserve. Greenspan, Bernanke, Yellen, and now Powell. The Last Gold Rush Ever, this book, aptly identifies these as among the deep state money manipulators. Under their guidance, central banking became the tool of a vicious form of crony capitalism and money politics. So that today the economy has become utterly dependent upon the central bank's printing press. The bipartisan fiscal regime of perma-deficits and the military-industrial complex that bolsters what remains of the manufacturing sector. Now, in their hideous series of bubbles and busts, the dot-com bubble and the housing bubble among them, each one bigger than the last, the stock market bubble has burst, leaving the stench of catastrophe hanging in the air. This came out in 2020, and obviously, maybe there was some pressure at the time, but the stock market has now been led ahead by the soaring seven, and the catastrophe has been delayed, but I believe it's coming. But first, a little chi-chi. It's going to go up, I think. There were plenty of other pins that might have done the job. Another needless Washington war, for example, could have done as much. But it happened that COVID-19 was the pin that popped the Wall Street bubble. And that just because it really hasn't shown up yet doesn't mean it didn't get popped then. Just as I learned that the book Now in Your Hands was forthcoming, the clamor to participate in the plunder triggered by Wall Street's sell-off and the general lockdown reached a fevered pitch. With years of state cronyism, bankster bailouts, and special pleading assimilated into our national ethos, lines of supplicants began forming around the whited palaces of DC, their eyes beady and greedy, their sweaty palms extended to grab their share. They had all learned never to let a good crisis go to waste. The beggars in line on Capitol Hill weren't the homeless by any means. They were some of the biggest corporations in America, making the failed but ever-ready Keynesian claim that budgetary red ink somehow would be stimulative. Among those at the head of the handout line were the nation's airlines, notoriously cyclical and vulnerable to dislocations caused by recessions, storms, wars, and terror. They had failed to prepare for these well-known risks. Instead, the airline industry spent decades strip mining their balance sheets to fund share buybacks and goose top executive stock options when they should have been preparing to protect their companies. Since 2012, management of the four largest U.S. airlines, Delta, United, American, and Southwest, spent $43.7 billion on share buybacks to enrich themselves and their shareholders. Then, when the flights hit an air pocket, they turned to the taxpayers to provide them $50 billion in bailouts. So they spent $44 billion and they got a bailout of $50 billion. In bailouts that they couldn't bother to provide for themselves. Who hasn't learned from such examples? So this time, even tennis shoe sellers, beer brewers, and candy makers pressed their claims upon the public purse. If you looked closely, you probably would have seen the butchers, the bakers, and the candlestick makers too. At the Eccles building on Constitution Avenue, the Federal Reserve announced special provisions galore for the banks that had created it in the first place, the bubble. Changes in reserve requirements, more liquidity provisions, and anything else that would help bail out the stock market were rolled into the Powell burrito. It would, announced a magnanimous Fed, print whatever money it took, paren, using, quote, its full range of tools, unquote, as the statement read on paren. So the Fed stepped up to the plate to buy more government bonds, hundreds of billions of dollars worth with each swing of the bat. He really puts his metaphors in there. And not just government bonds, but mortgage and other asset-backed securities, as well as corporate and municipal securities. At the same time, it extended new credit facilities to foreign central banks far and wide, 60 billion each to the central banks of Australia, Brazil, Korea, Mexico, Singapore, Sweden, and 30 billion to those of Denmark, Norway, and New Zealand. Those were in addition to the pre-existing credit arrangements it provides to the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, and the Swiss National Bank. By the way, at least 3 of those countries have higher per capita incomes than the United States. Meanwhile, at the White House, they were talking about the marriage of corporations and state. Asked if he liked the idea of government taking stock in private companies, President Donald Trump answered with the words of a wedding vow. I do. I really do. He said, it's a union Mussolini could have officiated. Well, always bring politics in. I think Trump would have been arguing, let's try to get our money back. But anyway, on the White House lawn, the administration was warming up the helicopters of monetarist lore to drop wads of cash directly into the accounts of the people. Of course, that had to be part of the plan this time around. Frederick Bastiat provided the taxonomy of plunder a long time ago. The few plunder the many, or everybody plunders everybody, or nobody plunders anybody. Nobody plunders anybody doesn't stand a chance. And while the few plunder the many has been the Washington way, growing resentment of the 1%, Occupy Wall Street, Antifa violence, and the energized socialists Sanders, Warren, and Ocasio-Cortez mean fresh plunder initiatives have to provide free stuff for everybody. If the Fed can print money for Wall Street, it had damn well better be ready to print some for everybody next time. Paren, quote, sure, throw them a scrap, unquote, say the cronies, knowing full well that in the financial casino, the odds always favor the house and that it's worth a few crumbs just to keep the rubes at the table. The socialist warriors' fondest hope for a windfall notwithstanding, helicopter money is only the next economically imbecilic step along the pathway of the Bush-Bernanke bailouts that Bastiat foretold. The plunder of everybody by everybody. An endgame provision that launches a war of all against all. The Last Gold Rush Ever, this book, provides the essential orientation you need for the end game upon which we have embarked. Washington and the Fed are in the process of putting the coup de grace on capitalism and sound money. So if you are to be prepared to protect yourself and your family, nothing could be more timely than this book, or a rally in ZJYL or FNGR or any one of these other stocks. One more thing. Authors Charles Goyette and Bill Haynes have detailed how Keynesian central banking has poured the kerosene that ignites the debt inferno. But they don't stop there. They describe a series of accelerants, trade and currency wars, a war on cash, a new Washington enthusiasm for the deprivations of socialism, waning worldwide dollar hegemony, and the demise of America's global military empire that will make this bonfire of calamities burn hotter, the dollar lose value faster, and the gold price race higher than those who fail to read this book might ever suspect. That was the forward. We can go, I'll go through the book over the next few lives. But I wish we had a win, because I would be telling you about gold and silver every single day. All right, let me text him and tell him I went live. He's going to be mad at me because okay. Let's go through some of the questions. I'll go to the bottom. Go to the bottom and back to the top. Everyone, yeah. Well, Mexican, I don't think, let me just look it up. I don't think this book addresses it, but it's been, I read it, 3 years ago? Let me just look if they have anything on Fort Knox. I I literally have a, 2 or 3 shelves of books, and my opinion, and I've also studied um, gold for a long, and silver and resource plays for a long time. My own opinion is Fort Knox does not have the money. I think we hypothecated and rehypothecated our gold. We made the British sell their gold, Canadians. So I don't think we didn't sell it ourselves. 38.39. Let me read something to you on 38.39. If it's short. If it's not short, I'm not going to read it. This is what I think's going on with our securities market. But this is about 4 paragraphs. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 created a, quote, fractional reserve, unquote, banking system for the United States. This means that each member bank was required to maintain a balance on account with the Federal Reserve in an amount representing a fraction of the deposits its customers have made with it. The bank could issue loans to borrowers with the rest of the deposits. In other words, banks made loans in amounts many times greater than the amount of their required reserves. For example, if the reserve ratio is 1 to 10, a bank with 100 million in reserves with the Fed would be empowered to loan out 10 times that amount, or $1 billion. Does it sound familiar? A brokerage firm and a hedge fund and a prime broker know that there's, let's use ZJYL pre-split. They know there's 8 million shares outstanding and the float's 1 million shares, but they expand it to 10 million shares by essentially lending out shares that don't exist on a 1 to 10 ratio, same way this is. I swear what's happening on Wall Street is these brainiacs figure they can take this same model, and it's the Fed backstopping them. And what they forget is at times people want their stocks. All right, Ham's calling in. All right, let me see. All right, hang on. I got to get this stupid speaker. I have to get it was ready, and now it's got to go to settings.
Battery 70%.
Okay.
Connected to Bill's iPhone.
All right, Ham, you're live. Hang on 1 second. All right, you're live.
I said, now I'm live. All right. Number one, William, I do not want you staying on too long.
I'm not going to stay on long. I told everybody
I don't want you getting in confrontations with
I'm
the
not
bank.
going to
They're
answer
out
every
like crazy.
question. I said those 2 things. I'm not going to stay on
All
long.
right.
And I'm not going to answer every question.
I don't want, you don't need the stress from these idiots. Okay. It doesn't bother me. I could care less. You know, the MMTLP people are attacking me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do for them, but you know what? I don't really care anymore. Leave me alone. So I just want to make sure that just so people know, I keep going forward. I don't look left or right. I don't care who you are. I'm going forward. All right. The good people that want to stay, stay. Those don't want to stay, don't stay. You can call me whatever you like. I don't care. Okay. I've lost friends. I've lost family. I've lost money. You name it. That's my motivation. And I need to do it for my family. If you don't like it, go fuck yourself. I don't care. All right. We did an interview with Dennis Neal. People attacking him, call me a scam. I don't really care. I went and met the guy. He knows who I am. And you know what? I stand tall. If he doesn't like it, I don't really care. No one's helping me do anything but myself. I help myself. And for those who are too lazy to help yourself and just want to bitch and moan that why is it the stock going up like it's my job? It's not my job. It's the government. We've been trying to expose it for a long time. You know, I don't care who paid for the truck. We pay for the truck. My people did. We did it all the time. All right. I offered it to MMTLP. They helped them out because I know people who own the stock, including William. All right. I know John Berta. I know John Berta from Torchlight days. I couldn't believe it was still going on. I lost touch with them. But either here or there, let's move on. I went over a bunch of things. I have a conference call at 2:00, William, so I'm sorry.
All right.
I just want to let William know that I spoke to his shareholder, and he works for Oracle, and he will help us with the exchange and get us Oracle as a partner. And he knows Larry Ellison very closely, and I thought it was fantastic. So, William, we need to get that.
Yeah, let me,
we
while
need to
you're
just
talking, I'll see if I got any responses today.
If we get that license for the exchange, we will be backed by Oracle, and I will get money in 32 seconds for the television show. We'll be off to the races, and enough of this nonsense in this SEC in the USA. Let's move on and go make real money. All right, that's the most important thing. And, you know, again, while we're waiting here, let's move on to better ideas. All right, let me just go through the stocks while you're looking. GTII has a completely different look. Friday, it popped up on a short squeeze. That was them. Yesterday, they pushed it back down. Today, it's back up. Again, the government needs to step in, or the company has to come out with some news on a deal, and I think we'll be off to the races there. It's 450 million shares. They never covered. And the proof is the DTC, the NSCC have cornered Alpine and caught them with a concentrated short position. I didn't make it up. It's in a court document. If you look at any stock that has shorts, people fined for shorting, mismarking tickets, or whatever the hell they did, fraudulent, savvy, all these people, they never tell you the stock symbols on the short side because they know they'll be sued for manipulation. So they never give you. Goldman Sachs, let's say if they were shorting Shopify, SHOP, when it was 300 and they drove it down to $70 and they got fined for naked shorting that stock, everyone who owned it in that time frame would be suing them. That's why they never tell you the names. So when you see GTII mentioned in a court document on a concentrated short position, that has to be one hell of a concentrated short position for them to give it up. I've never seen that in 24 years. Not one name on the short side. On the long side, they always say, oh, they were pumping and dumping this name. They always give you the symbols. On the short side, they never give it to you because the SEC knows the liability that these firms or the short sellers have because of the destruction of the stocks. All those stocks that guy Adam Long and that other guy, 134 companies they manipulated, they all go to, they should be hung. Every one of those stocks were manipulated down. I put up some of the names that Jeffrey Easton has destroyed. PXMD, BRAG, SYTA, I forgot the other names, you know, between Fingamo, all tied to a debt convertible toxic note, and that's what happened there. So again, so you know the GTI story. Finger motion started to move today. Again, they can't hold it down forever. The company's on the verge of profitability. The CEO is telling you that. The CEO is telling you in the videos, William and the other one, that he has a big deal coming up. I don't know what it is, but I'm watching it. The earnings are going to be better. China's out of the new year. Business is picking up. The Chinese government is going after the short sellers there. It's in the right spot. I mean, it's in the right spot. You want to keep playing the game? 240, 270. I had a gentleman, he's going to go buy the stock. I told him don't pay more than 270 today and see if you can get it below that. That's it. You want to accumulate it, accumulate. You don't want to play, don't play. I could care less. ZJYL and GDC both have the same look. ZJYL, we said it was 10 million short times 20 equals 200 million shares now. And the stock is traded, I don't even know what it's traded. What's the volume, William?
Which one?
ZJYL.
All right, hang on. Relax, everyone. Oh, man, there it is. ZJYL volume is 239,000.
239,000. So what's that? 4,000 shares, really? What is it? 20 times, what is it? 10,000 shares?
20, yeah, it's 10, yeah, it's 11,000 shares.
11,000 shares traded. They were short 10 million. They traded
Yeah.
at 10,000. So you tell me. I told you they didn't cover. GDC, I posted on Friday. The number we got was 92 million. I have no idea what it's doing, but that's, you know, a different name. Same thing. They never cover. Okay, when they wake up, you have to look at it from the Tom Hanks movie, The War of the Worlds, where the monsters came out. They were in the ground and they came out when it was time. That's how I look at short selling. They squeeze when the monster comes out of the ground. That's how I look at it. It's a crazy way to look at it. But when they pop out, that's when they explode. That's just the way it goes. All right. So in those two names, they're doing a little cha-cha. One name I talked about before, and I vowed I wouldn't talk about it, is this TELO. I'm hearing the news is coming either tomorrow or Monday on that company. And we saw what happened. It went public at 7 2 weeks ago, was driven down to 4.5. The stock got squeezed just like they deserve to, up to 20 plus. The shorts came back down, offering it lower. And they're trying again to do the same pattern. And I told you that when a company goes public, the next thing is going to be news about the company. The company's not going to come out and say everything we're doing is shitty. They're going to come out and give you good news. So I expect that to happen shortly. I don't know where it is today, William. I don't know what the volume is.
Which one?
Tom, Eddie, Larry.
Yeah, I don't have it. I got to type it in. I don't have it on my list. T low hits a new low. 858.73. Volume is 3,000.
Right, so no volume there. They're short, who knows, a couple 100,000, you know, maybe 500,000 to 1 million shares. And they have to cover, and there's no way out of this one also. So again, you know, you pick your poison. I gave you the stories, what I look at and all these things. Yesterday, we talked about NVIDIA. What did I say, William? I would be a buyer on the dip because the
You
shorts
did say
always
that.
make that. They always make that as a trader in a gut feeling. I said they were pushing it down yesterday before the earnings, which tells me that the stock is going to go higher. Why? Because they're just trying to get people to panic out. Well, they did it. They got it down 30 yesterday. It turned. It was 860, 870s. I mean, 670, 680, something like that. And it went up to 780 today. I think it's 780 now. So you got your pop up. A couple of people asked me, what do you do now? Well, that was the easy trade. Now it gets hard. So I would advise you to
Just don't trade.
You know, stay away from this one. Go find something else. And someone else brought a good point to me. Watching the video, they bought Facebook calls because they felt that Facebook, if NVIDIA went, Facebook, the other stocks in that, you know, that in the top sector of buying would take off, and they made money on Facebook buying a cheaper call, which I thought was interesting. That's a nice approach, a different idea. Instead of playing NVIDIA, play one of the high flying names that, you know, even though it has nothing to do with NVIDIA, they all go together, right? A program kicks in and they take them with it. And that's how he made money in Facebook off of NVIDIA's earnings. So, I mean, next time you look at it and say, you know, if NVIDIA's on the short side, say, hey, maybe I could buy some Facebook puts instead, something like that. It won't go down 100, but Facebook will go down 10 or 15, but it's a much safer play. Interesting. So think about that if you want to. I'm trying to just give you ideas how to trade and make a living for yourselves. All right. And you can see yesterday, just on my gut with no information at all, I thought that when the shorts try to push it down, to me, that's a buy signal that these guys are trying to scare people out. If they had spiked it up, I'd be more leery to the downside. That's how I looked at it. You know, but I knew they were pushing it down just to get people to panic out because they needed to cover. That's what I thought was going on there. Anything else, William?
Yeah. People are talking about NVIDIA.
No, that's
KYP.
all I'm trying to say is, guys, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm trying to show you how to get ideas to trade, what to look for. You're gonna have, if you want to play this game around, if the U.S. is not going to fix the fraud, if you want to make money, you better learn how to trade, and this way you can.
Yeah, you got to ride the tiger, not sit on it. I mean, you got to, you know, hop on, hop off. You can't stay there. It'll turn around and eat you, as we've found out.
So like right now, I'm watching a bunch of stocks. You know, my daughters, their husbands, they want to buy stocks, and I say, listen, things are just going sideways. So if you get extra money, just poke at it, buy 500 at a time. You get an average price. Every day you buy 200, 500, 300. And when they run, you make a sale. And then you go back to a different stock. That's the way to do it. Have a small portfolio of small amounts. Hey, buying 500 shares and it runs up $1.50, that's $750. Take the 750 plus whatever you sold it at, you buy another stock then, and you just wait for it to pop. That's a different approach. Slow, steady. It doesn't go every day. You're not looking for, I'm not trying to throw you in a hockey game where it's going too fast for you. And you try to figure out a way to make yourself a couple $100 a day. And that's the way to do it. Safe, find it. And when they go, they go. That's just the way it is.
KYP got your direct message and she accepts your challenge, whatever it was.
Well, and when she's ready, I like her to be my doubles partner.
That's the goal. You guys should go on the circuit as doubles partners and give.
I'm going to my friend. He's worth $1.5 billion. I'm going to tell him we need $2 million in sponsorship money. And the last time I asked him today, he laughed. He goes, "What are you going to do with the money?" I said, "Well, we're going to go out drinking and eating all night. That's after we play. That's what we're doing."
What you need it for is to build the best pickleball courts in Brooklyn.
Well, I can tell you this, KYP. I sent William a video. I don't know if did you get to watch the video, William?
I watched a video you sent me. Yes.
Yes, I figured out by changing my grip into a Western tennis grip, William. I don't know if you know what that is.
I know what Western grip is.
I can actually swing.
It's for forehand spin.
I can get forehand spin. And basically, I can rip this ball, and the top spin on it is so outrageous that even if it goes past your head when you try to duck, it's going to drop in the baseline. It's going to stay in now. So I figured out how to do that just from a little twist. I've been trying to doctor it back and forth, but I finally found the right formula. And I'm super excited about I won't hit KYP. She'll be running for the hills. But if she's on my team, she can at least get a laugh when I start hitting everybody else.
KYP is not as scared of you.
Don't worry about it. She's talking Brooklyn shit, but don't worry. She'll be running.
She's not afraid. All right, so you have 8 minutes to get ready for your call.
Don't worry. I have memorized what I have to do there. Anyway, William, listen, please do
I'm not going to stay on long. I've already made it clear.
Listen,
I've already made it clear. I'm not answering every question. I'm just not going to.
Listen, there's good people here, but obviously there's people here trying to get you off the airwaves. That's what their motive is. And you know what? And at your age, and you've been gracious enough to give everyone your time.
My age?
Well, you're not 20
years old. Are you saying I'm old?
Yes, you are.
The
only thing older than you is some dirt in my backyard. So William still thinks Abe Lincoln's the president of the United States. But again, William,
a friend of mine is teaching diplomacy at, I think, Princeton, and he does a 3-hour course once or twice a week. He drives up. He told me what will scare you is these students, they're all born after 9/11. So everyone in college doesn't remember 9/11.
Hey, listen, if anyone wants to learn anything about U.S. history, I was flipping through the channels a bunch of years ago, and I found the show called the Frozen Chosen, CHOSIN. And it's the Battle of Korea.
Oh, I remember. I remember that.
And these poor soldiers, it was after World War II. The U.S. was winding down. We weren't very, our military wasn't stacked up like it was.
Yeah.
And they recruited all these young men, and they put them on a boat. They did basic training on a boat, and they were going they thought it was just a police type thing, just to clean up something. they took these poor guys and they drove them up in the middle of the valley there, and it was 40, 50 degrees below freezing. And there was 25,000 of them against 120,000 Chinese soldiers. Freezing temperatures. People were getting shot, and their bullets, the blood was freezing, and that's what kept them alive on their bullet wounds. It was just the craziest story that no one ever talked about. I couldn't believe it when I watched it. No one ever really talked about the Korean War. And when you watch it, it's the most brutal of all the wars. When the people were killed, the soldiers, they vowed they would never leave them. They were frozen the way they died. Their legs, their arms, they were bent like they were shooting a gun. Any form, it's just awful. And the kids today need to sit down and watch this, because the only reason we're still this country is because of people like that who fought in these battles. My friend's dad, I think he got the Purple Heart, the Silver Star from that battle. He took his machine gun, held it in his hand, burning his hand, and he saved his guys, maybe 10 or 15 guys. And before he passed away, they sent him the letter, what he did. And he stood there with a machine gun, burning his hand, mowing down everybody. And this guy did it to protect his troops. I mean, just unbelievable stuff. And, I got the other battles, but this one was, besides the weather and where they were and untrained, these poor guys, it was freezing. It's brutal. And to that, my dad landed in Normandy, and, I always respected that. But, this was insane, this battle. Totally insane.
And that's when
Again,
MacArthur wanted to drop a bomb, and I guess that's why Truman fired him.
Well, whatever. But if you ever want to watch something that will make your jaw drop, watch that. It's called The Frozen Chosen. 40, 50 degrees below. Freezing. These poor guys standing out there. Anyway, listen, everyone, I have to get on a conference call. William, relax.
I'm not going to be on long, and I'm not going to answer
the questions politely. I went through all the stocks for everybody, and good luck. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Call ended.
Politely? That means I wasn't polite. I guess I wasn't polite. Just get frustrated. Anyway, hey, Rob, Lee, I believe here in the United States, if you buy gold or silver US coins, I don't think you have the capital gains tax, but I'm not giving financial advice or accounting advice. And then here, your point about GTII, I agree. If GTII or one of these others were to run, what I'd like, if we start having some profits, it doesn't feel like we ever will, but if we do, I'd like to see people put 5 or 10% of the profit into either physical gold, physical silver, or a trust like the Sprott Physical Silver Trust, the Sprott Physical Gold Trust, that is physical assets, and just start accumulating, because as one guy called it, it'll be those assets will become unobtainibian. They'll become unattainibian, whatever. You won't be able to buy them. I have followed James Dines, but not recently. I have followed him. I think the last time I listened to him, it was quite a while ago. I don't know what he's saying now. I think there's progress on the issues that I've mentioned before, and if that were to eventualize, I would feel very good. It's skinning whale, but it's funny. We probably were Farrand. It's Farrand, but our name may have come from the Huguenots in France, Clermont-Ferrand. And, there's so many minorities that have been, disadvantaged, oppressed, or shown hardships. But people don't remember Catholics were not, and it's still in parts of the country. Catholics are not well accepted by I don't want to say anything too dramatic, but we're papists, and people don't understand why we pray to Mary and etc. My mother, we grew up, my mother used to say, don't answer the religious questions on any form. Because basically, if they find out you're Catholic, you might be in trouble. Of course, she rejected the faith, so maybe that was it too. But anyway, they changed the E to an A, just like they've changed other names at Ellis Island, and I think to make it more Anglican, to make it anglicized and not froggish and Catholic. All right. Yeah, I don't quite trust the rallies in it, but if some changes are made, we're gonna have to fight. But I know how to, and you probably do too. But I know how to make it happen. I think I do. You know, I don't know what you're talking about, believe it or not, Gretchen. I don't think it's an accident, given your sentence, but I don't know which court document you mean, which I know that might surprise you, but I don't always know everything. Every day I'm on your phone looking old. I'm old. I can't go back in time. And that's just how it is. Get it together, Pops. I'm not a father. I wish I were. I wish I could be called Pops, but I'm not. I'm a single guy without children, unfortunately. But Telly, I appreciate your input. I have read this, Ryan. I believe he has 4 books. There might be 5 for Jim Rickards. I've read them all, and I own them all. I just don't have it here. I don't think I have it here. But Rickards is an interesting case, Ryan. Rickards has done the studies and has done the war games, so to speak. He's been called in to, and my dad did this. My dad did it too, but they have simulations about what would happen in an all-out war, and Rickards has done those Pentagon games, State Department games. And money is going to be a big part of it. So he's a fascinating guy to listen to. But Rickards believes the gold is at Fort Knox, the 8.6 million. What is it? Let's 8.6 thousand tons or million tons of gold. Let me look what it is. All these numbers. So that's a difference with what here U.S. gold reserves. That's the difference with what other analysts say. There it is, metric tons, 8,133 metric tons. And according to that, we have the most gold. And I'm looking at the next country behind it is Germany with 3,300 metric tons. Italy's behind that with 2.5. France, essentially 2.5. Russia with 2.2. I bet it's higher now. China is essentially 2. Switzerland, 1,000. Japan, 750. India, 600. Netherlands, 600. Turkey, 500. Taiwan, 400. Portugal, 400. Kazakhstan, 400. Saudi Arabia, 300. UK, 300. I think the UK does not have 300. And I think China has a lot more. China may have as much as we have, or certainly as enough to be in the second place. And I bet Russia has more than what's stated here, but nobody knows for sure. So anyway, Rickards takes at face value that we have that gold. I'm really highly skeptical. I don't think we have that gold. But to go with Rickards' point, as long as we're a strong military and an independent country, nobody's going to look. They're not going to let anyone verify it, or it'll be a verification that fits our needs. So then what does that mean? Rickards has a target. His gold targets are, I believe his target is $10,000 an ounce as a jump up in the gold price as a solution to our financial situ. And that's Rickards. And he's a very smart guy. I like his analysis, but oddly, he's more conservative than most of the gold analysts out there. And his projections, I think that's pretty amazing. Go from 2,000 to 10,000. That's pretty amazing. And if silver stays at the ratio it is now, I suppose silver would go to 100, but I would argue silver's going to go to par with gold at some point in our lifetime. KYP. KYP. There's a dead bishop on the landing. How did he get there? How should I know? There's a penguin on the telly. How would a penguin get on the telly? How should I know? Do I look like Dr. effing Bernovsky? I don't know the answer to that. It's interesting. I don't think it's an accident, but I don't know where. I didn't evaluate that. My guess is it's not going to be something that I highlight. We used to have these books where you could get a lot of info quickly. That now you don't get a lot right away, but it's $1 stock. It was as high as 9. Oh, well, you might have something. It says hard to borrow. Food processing. That could be interesting. Small market cap. I don't know what the float is. No, I didn't look into it. So let me write it down and I'll try to remember to look at it. I'll try to remember. That's an unfortunate symbol. Oh, it is 1.25. I'll ask on that. I haven't heard anything on the company, but certainly it might be in the same group, maybe with some of these others. Who knows? All right, let's go backwards. KYP. It's hard to make that rhyme. Pretty young P. Pretty young. Catch a young thing. Been a long road. I don't know. I get worn out, and I get annoyed at myself when I get upset. But I am what I am. Big Al, you expect me to read that out loud? I tell you what, I think it's unfair to somebody that belongs in a home to be doing this to them. And I hope I keep my. It's a good question. What would you rather keep, your brain or anything else? I'd want to keep my brains. Yeah, eagles are more expensive and butter. There's I guess 2 or 3 approaches to accumulating physical gold or silver, and then it'll go to the mining stocks. But right now, at least with silver, you can buy silver at a price that I don't think it justifies necessarily taking the risk in the mining stocks. Although I know at least one that looks attractive. The problem is the shorts have them in the crosshairs. But anyway, if you don't have a lot of ounces already, it's probably best just to buy um, junk silver or go for the volume of silver rather than paying up. But eagle coins are more expensive, but they're recognizable too. And as long as our system functions, it doesn't matter what you have. And just to quickly say, I've heard that an Asian country, which you would know, has become some people in it have become good at counterfeiting eagle coins. But in general, if we get to a point where we need to survive and our financial system is on a holiday, people will recognize eagle coins and junk silver better than they will alternatives. So it's just, it's just yeah. It shows how old I am, Donnie. But I have my college roommate's father served there, and he didn't talk about it much, but it was a searing experience. That would have been tough. The United States is the only reason you have a South Korea. I didn't know that, Father Guido Sarducci. Your father was in Vietnam. My Two uncles on my dad's side were in Vietnam. One was in the Air Force, and the other was on the ground. And they both died. They both, and not in Vietnam, but they. John was a great guy, great sense of humor, kind, great father, smart, apparently a great golfer, and loved his dogs. He went into the hospital feeling something wrong with his throat, and he never came out. He was in for, I don't know, 30 or 40 days, and they found cancer. When I went to his funeral, the streets in Altamont, New York, the streets were lined with veterans and motorcycles. The church was lined, the graveyard, just hundreds of Vietnam vets came to see him off, and I guess they do that for each other. But it was really moving, and I got to talk to some of them. And one guy, I can remember his face, I can remember where we were talking, but he told me they thought that it was Agent Orange that killed my uncle. My other uncle was in the Navy and Air Force, flew naval jets, but he died of he was redhead, pale skin, and apparently didn't cover up much. But I also wonder if it could have been other things too. But he got cancer, and it might have been melanoma. It never was clear. But they both died around age 63, and they were great people. Anyway, Vietnam War. It's right here. I'm reading it. Harry's book is right there. Big Al, you want to see? Here's some drivel. It's, I didn't realize it, but it's ghost written. We agreed to meet. This is the first page. We agreed to meet a few hours after the funeral in the Frogmore Gardens by the old Gothic ruin. I got there first. I looked around, saw no one. I checked my phone. No texts, no voicemails. They must be running late, I thought, leaning against the stone wall. I put away my phone and told myself, stay calm. The weather was quintessentially April, not quite winter, not yet spring. The trees were bare, but the air was soft. The sky was gray, but the tulips were popping. The light was pale, but the indigo lake threading through the gardens glowed. I mean, come on. Do you think Harry really thinks like this, much less writes like this? How beautiful it all is, I thought, and also how sad. Once upon a time, this was going to be my forever home. Instead, it had proved to be just another brief stop. When my wife and I fled this place in fear for our sanity and physical safety, I wasn't sure when I'd ever come back. That was January 2020. Now, 15 months later, here I was, hours after waking up to 32 missed calls, and then one short, heart racing talk with Granny. Harry, Grandpa's gone. The wind picked up. turned colder. I hunched my shoulders, rubbed my arms, regretted the thinness of my white shirt. I wished I'd not changed out of my funeral suit. I wished I'd thought to bring a coat. I turned my back to the wind and saw, looming behind me, the Gothic ruin, which in reality was no more Gothic than the Millennium Wheel. Some clever architect, some bit of stagecraft, like so much around here, I thought. I moved from the stone wall to a small wooden bench. Sitting, I checked my phone again, peered up and down the garden path. Where are they? Another gust of wind. Funny, it reminded me of Grandpa, his wintry demeanor, maybe, or his icy sense of humor. I recalled one particular shooting weekend years ago. A mate, just trying to make conversation, asked Grandpa what he thought about my new beard, which had been causing concern in the family and controversy in the press. Should the Queen force Prince Harry to shave? Grandpa looked at my mate, looked at my chin, broke into a devilish grin. That's no beard. Everyone laughed. To beard or not to beard, that was the question. But leave it to Grandpa to demand more beard. Let grow the luxurious bristles of a bloody Viking. Anyway, it goes on and on like that. And you know, I'm not sure I'll finish it, but I have read a few chapters. I have no idea. You're right about that, Al. I have no idea. I I get I middle of the night, I wonder what the heck have I done for the last couple of years. And I don't make any money at it. I wish I knew how to make money at it, but I don't know. I can't make it happen. Live from Korea. Or let me go to the bottom because I always get behind, so it's better to. What is this garbage? Prince Harry, spare me the drivel. I can't believe it was ghost written, and it reads. I don't know. He's a relatively young guy, 38 years old. He has a lot to say, I guess. Yeah, it was a really good interview yesterday. I think there is support at $1. I was impressed by those two guys. I tell you, if he, talking about Peter Boards, if he's able to acquire one or two of these roll-up companies without issuing stock at $1, I think it's all over for the criminals. Yeah, I know, Scott. Really? They've refused your transfer of MMTLP? I was here, obviously, yesterday. Someone said that E-Trade, there's no shares available. I'll find out. I put in my request 2 weeks ago. I'll find out what happened. Schwab Barino 30 minutes ago to transfer 1,272 shares, NBH to AST. Yeah, that's fine. That's what they did. I don't have Schwab. But that's what they did for me. I don't want to give any details that the boo birds could play with, but I'll show you. You know, I got my NextBridge shares mailed to me. It's $60 at E-Trade. And I have some more that I moved out of my IRA. You know, sort of that amount that was in my IRA. It's fine. Once they transfer it to you in physical form, 2 to 6 weeks, that's going to make you wonder if you'll ever get it. But once they issue it, when you call in to AST, now it's called something else, they will have your record of your name and how many shares you have. So I've kept this here mainly so I can show it to you guys, and mainly out of, I guess, laziness. But whilst the attention is on it, I'm going to send this in to, I don't know if I'll do it tomorrow. Maybe it's in a couple of months, but I'll send it in to AST, because the problem will come eventually when brokerage firms won't accept this, and they won't now unless it's put back in electronic form. And that can get expensive and take a long time. I hope that NextBridge never trades publicly. I think they should. They're going to have so much money. If they do this settlement properly, they should just stay private and screw the public markets. Yours did transfer. That's awesome. Awesome. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Barbara. My uncle was either 63 or 64. I think he was 63. And they said that symptom was Agent Orange. It's a shame. God bless you. God bless you. You make me feel brand new. For God bless you. Make me feel so new. My love. God bless you for, yeah. I've had lots to try to pray to him, although I'm not very good at it. Yeah, I ordered them all and read them all. I'd like to read them again, Ryan, because it was a few years ago. I signed up for his news service and I paid for it for 2 years, and then I let it expire. I might get it again. Oh, that I know about. Yeah, when Alpine was mentioned as deficient, that's huge. I don't know that it was some sort of gamemanship, but it was reporting the facts. And the way I read it, Gretchen, is that it's not a small situation. It's big. That's why they disclosed it. That's how I read it. Yeah, it's young. It's young. I don't, that question isn't very specific, Mexican, but what I've noticed, and you know probably if you're asking the question, I believe Germany asked for all of its gold back from New York, and we were only able to deliver maybe 40% of it. And then it fell out of the news. Now, maybe over time, by manipulating the gold market, we've been able to deliver further gold to them. I don't know. Canada sold its gold at the low. I think England still has that remainder of gold, but they sold a lot of their gold prior to that. I'm trying to remember his name in Venezuela. You know, the guy, Chavez, asked for his gold back. And what's interesting is he died shortly thereafter. Apparently the gold was delivered, but then Venezuela got in trouble, and now they've sold the gold back into the open market. And that's what I think the financial system tries to do. This happened, and I think Putin knows that it happened with the ruble collapse in the late 90s. And I would argue we came, we saw, he died. I would argue that both Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi were victims of the desire to put gold as the basis of their currencies and transactions. I say hoi hoi, hoi hoi. Somebody asked me yesterday, what's a treadle? So let's find out what a treadle is. Because I don't know what a treadle is. A lever worked by the foot that imparts motion to a machine. And in the, I swear that's what they say, at least that's what I've always thought they said, in that Spanish Inquisition skit. He comes in, he says, something's askew on the treadle. Yeah, silver rounds are good. Don't worry, that fro girl. I'm not going to do it. Any day that I start getting, agitated, I'm just going to hang up. You would think Spain would be on the number one for the gold plundered from the America. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I get more upset with the conquistadores and Spain. Believe it or not, you're right. You're right about gold and silver that they took. And that created a great wealth in Europe and an inflation when the silver, the I don't know what to call it, reserves or ounces were flowing into Europe. But what really bothers me about what the Spanish did is they burned all of the Aztec records. If they were all Aztec, the paper records, they burned them all. And I guess they did it in the name of the Catholic Church. But could you imagine if we had all that history from Mexico and further south? But they burned it all. And then we get upset with the Taliban for destroying those two statues, but we did it. Well, not, you know what I mean, in the past. All right, let me go to the bottom again. Where's finger? Is Ocean Sailing here? There. No, you're not muted. I never muted you, Ocean Sailing, but at the instruction of Busy, but maybe somebody else told me how to do it. I think it was Lion. Anyway, I got on there and I figured out how to unmute you, but I never did it.
Are you still live?
Yeah, I am. I'm all right. All right, I got to do this stupid speaker again. I don't know why it doesn't stay connected.
Battery 70%. Connected to Bill's iPhone.
All right, you're connected. Sorry, it took so long.
Okay, am I live now?
You are live.
Okay, I just had a conference call with a gentleman that works for U.S. big companies in the U.S. on the marketing end, and they want me to introduce them to Finger Motion, okay? Because they want companies like Starbucks, Yum Foods, and all these companies that do business in China to be able to have access to the SMS text messaging so that when they want to send a message out to everyone in China that Starbucks is giving out a free cup of coffee or whatever it may be, these guys want to get access to Finger Motion, and they want to be able to deliver Coca-Cola, Pepsi, whoever it may be, to get their message across all of China. So that text messaging thing, this gentleman has the access to the U.S. public companies. So I'm going to try to reach out tonight. Hopefully someone get back to me and introduce them to Finger Motion. And I thought that was a wonderful idea about text messaging. And it'd be a world, it'll be just a monster for the company. So we'll see how it goes. But that's how Wall Street works, my friends. People bring things to the table. I don't control anything, but I'll certainly reach out and try to introduce them and see if he can get that done, because it'll benefit to everybody.
Yeah.
And there's many other things like that that happen for GTII. I hear things on all the time, or this or that, whatever company it may be. And I just try to stay in the middle. Hopefully someone will pay attention to it. But that was an idea, and I thought it was something that I wanted to share because I thought it was outstanding working from the US side, okay, getting the US, the powers to be, whether it's Nike, this, whoever it may be, that does a lot of business in China, to send out the messages using the text message system that Finger Motion has really, strong ties to. So I just wanted to get that to you, and I will pass that along tonight. Hopefully we can get that introduction going and put these parties together.
And it might work with that rich communication services they have. The new what do you call it? Something 5th generation. Anyway,
Whatever it is, I don't know, whatever it is. This guy has the marketing end on the US, all the big companies in the US. And he heard about this and he wanted me to get the introduction to him because he wanted to get the US companies to get the Finger Motion to get the distribution from to their text messaging. It's a lot easier, less travel. They can make it, it's cheaper, and these guys will do it all day long. They'll do all kinds of promotions through the text messaging thing. And if Finger Motion gets the approval, they could just shoot this thing out. And that's with the blessing of the Chinese government. So again, that's just something that came out of the blue. I jumped on a call about it. The guy explained it. And I says, I'll reach out and try to get it done for you. That's all I can do. And I'm going to try to introduce them, and hopefully they can get something done. But I thought it was interesting and a different take on growing businesses. That's how it works.
it's awesome.
All right. Let me go finish my day. I'll speak to you later. Just want to
All
get
right,
that.
I'm going to probably
right.
finish in 20 minutes, so
All right.
you
Goodbye.
don't have to worry. Okay, bye.
Call ended.
Wow. Logic's up since Ocean Sailing came on. Not very much. The pillar. Okay. The pillar. These shares that I got were from my regular account. 2 weeks ago, I called in and I finally just did it. I moved my shares from my IRA to my regular account. They did it in a day. I had to listen to them read a statement that it might be a taxable event, that it's a distribution. I'm not giving tax advice, but to me, it has no value, so it'll transfer at zero. That doesn't hurt the IRS because if eventually there is value, I'm going to pay taxes on that gain. And it's already been over a year, so it doesn't hurt them. And then I had to pay the $60, which I transferred some money in, but they put a hold on that. So it actually took me about 4 more days. I don't know how the hold worked. There was a holiday. Anyway, it was this Tuesday. And my understanding is they're on the way to me. We'll find out. We'll find out. And I think that's pretty good information. And Ocean, you're not muted. I unmuted you with the help, I think, of Lion's instructions and Ham. I had no idea what I was doing, but I did it late at night and I figured out. But what I found in there is over 300 names are muted. Should I, what do you think? I don't recognize them all. I think I blocked, maybe 6, maybe 10 of them. The rest I don't know. Maybe I should just go through and let them all come back live again and start by blocking them, give them all another chance. I don't know. I'm open to your ideas. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Better to grow old with a sense of humor than to have an old sense of humor like not legal advice. I'm just joking. I agree with this, Aaron. I would like, it's the thing. I'm not Rockefeller either. I'd like one of my positions to move so I can emphasize. Isn't that something? NVIDIA, the tattooed lady. Sue, it's a great idea. Get the somebody called me. I should have picked up. Anyway, that's all right. My email is this, Farrand Balance, and I can't get it on any of these services, so I'll go to FedEx. It's just my name, Farrand Balanced, and you can remember it's kind of like far and balanced at Gmail, Farrand Balanced. And I'll go sign in at FedEx, and then I should be able to choose my regular account or this one. And I'll do that tonight or tomorrow morning. I think it's how everything's set up that everything automatically goes to my default account, and I don't know how to unset that. I should write a book. When I was younger, I would tell everybody if I ever if I ever wrote a book, my title would be "Why Do Young Women Smoke?" I never could understand why young women would smoke, because of course I was younger then, and I thought in terms, I could understand why younger men smoked because they're trying to look tough, they're trying to get the girl, whatever. But women didn't need to do that. But then as I've grown older, I realize it's just human beings getting addicted. Now I would probably ask, why do young women get tattoos? But that wouldn't sell. So I maybe I should write a book, but that's the same. I don't know who Cam is, but maybe you're talking about him. That's the same guy. And he said, I think he said 20, 25,000, 30,000, 35,000. You know, a couple months ago. I don't know what he's thinking now, which would be 1,500, 1,000, maybe. I was on the phone with a guy who I trust, and he said it could go into the 2,000 or 3,000 range post split. I don't know. I just don't be greedy. I put my orders in very high because I have so few shares. But I think what I'm going to do is, as soon as it starts to run, I'll just change those. I put them in high in case I don't know, I'm on a plane or I'm in the metro or, you know, I'm just out of touch. Oh, that's interesting, Mark. Great taking. I saw it. I haven't watched it. It could be fool's gold. There's a whole theory. Lucky's asleep right down here. Thank you, short Vixen. Why did I start? It's cold. I stopped making videos because it's cold. Also, there's construction right down the street, so it got loud. But I'll go back out there when the weather's nicer. It just got cold. It just got cold. I'm going to look at the short Vixen again. Yeah, I know. And then the press comes out, Mike, and says, well, banning short selling isn't going to work. And the shorts are doing their job, and all that. It's all that. Oh, it's much worse. It's much worse. Ham would have to answer it his own way, but there's no price discovery anymore. There's no enforcement of securities laws. There's no compliance. Brokers just wealth advisors put you in pools of money, and I just think it's a whole lot worse. Lucid, I'm trying to click on you and it's not working. There it goes. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Key. Hi, Jennifer. And the one. Now, somebody just said James Dines died, and I remember him. Yeah, we used to follow James Dines, but I never bought it myself, so it would always be a Xerox copy. So I didn't get it consistently, but he was good. Thank you, Skinny. Yeah, I do get bent out of shape. That's a pretty good description. And who knows if how it comes across on a media like this. I have no idea. But it's the honky tonk women that give me the honky tonk blues. Could be the booze. Yeah, I'm more in the Charlie Rich column. He said, Camp, Charlie Ridge said, I don't much like happy songs. To me, they don't have a whole lot to say. I kind of feel that way. Das not good. Because sad spelled backwards is das, and das not good. Cute little girl. You never see a picture of the girl. You just see her puppies. I assume she's cute. What is happening with it, RN? Oh. Obviously, I came in on another discussion. My modeling days. I can't believe you remember that. I was a Sears teen model, selected out of the thousands. No, they picked one from each high school, and I was the guy picked from my high school. And then there was another guy that wanted it, and I forget what the politics was, but they ended up picking him too. So there was two. My high school. There was a beautiful, beautiful woman. I can see her to this day from the high school up the street. I used to go over and talk to her. She was absolutely gorgeous. And she knew it, but she didn't let it go to her head. That's Rick, why did you move to Casablanca? Came for the water. But Rick, there's no water here. I was misinformed. Thank you, Dame Time. Yeah, Eric Sprott's great. Palladium, gold, and silver. Eric Sprott is great. I didn't look at generation mining. I wrote that down, but I'm going to write it down again. Okay. I don't know when the additional shares are trading. I think they're in your account, but I'm not positive on that. I wouldn't sell them, is my first thought. Secondly, I think they had an 11-month restriction on it, or 9 months. I can't remember. 11-month, I think. So we're getting close, halfway through, but they might reduce that time. Who knows? But I would hold on to what you have, this 2/3. I really believe it could be a nice part of your portfolio longer term, and we'll start to learn more as they announce acquisitions. What are we doing here? Is that an existential question, or is it in response to reading Spare? How high can it go if it squeezes? Well, we were talking about that. I've heard it could go to thousands of dollars in a spike, but I really wouldn't wait. I mean, if it went to 100, that's a nice move, right? If it went to 50, that's a nice move. It's $8. Let me see where it is. 8.19. I mean, really, if it went to $80, that's a nice move. But what I heard is it could go into the thousands of dollars. You've got a float that's now maybe 25 million, and you've got a which is all owned by one small group cadre of investors, and you've got over 20 million, or exactly 200 million. Sorry, 10 million becomes 200 million. So-called naked short. That's a setup for a huge rally potentially. Yeah, that's the problem. Which stock are you talking about? Okay, let's look at kitties, because I agree with that. It says 100 possible in the short run with more. I agree with you, kitties. That's right. If you take, depending on how you drew the triangle, you can take the length, the width of the move, or you can take the height of the triangle, and then you move it over to the breakout, and hey, presto, you have a target. But I think that I also agree with you. It could go downward, but the breakout to me is going to be up as it crowds the end of the triangle. Problem is, if it goes sideways, it kind of breaks down instead of breaks up. And that's what you say here. Well, you say it invalidates the pattern, so that's not as dire as what I just said. Sears poncho. Ugh. Would I invest in mutual funds now? Sure, why not? I think you've got I mean, there's so many out there. That's a very broad question, but I think if there's mutual funds that focus on countries out other than the United States, other than Europe, I'd be intrigued by Russia, but of course, people are going to say you shouldn't do that. I would be intrigued by Southeast Asia, parts of Africa, but you've got to get you got to do your research and make sure the managers are good. I think, I don't know. I would stay away from anything bonds, anything banks, anything technology. Although, that's been the wrong move. I would buy mutual funds in the resource space, oil and gas, but I'd buy. And then mutual funds have a whole lot of different ways of buying, by the way. You could go to American funds, which are the best, probably over the long haul. It's been so long, I don't know if they've changed it, but it used to cost you 8.5% to buy American funds. But they by far were the gold standard for a family of funds. But then you could go to your brokerage firm like Milam or I'm sure Morgan Stanley or any of them. They have funds and they'll sell it to you with a no fee up. But if you sell out in the first year, they charge you 4%, second year 3%, third year 2%, fourth year 1%. So once you get into a mutual fund, it really is a longer term commitment. And the whole idea behind mutual funds is that you dollar cost average. But I really have a problem with that theory right now. I think it's true. The last 40 years, well, not even 40 years. We're having a run up now, so maybe it's a little bit more than 40 years. But since around 82 to now, it's been a Goldilocks period. And in that period, people have gotten accustomed to stocks always going up. But I don't know that that's going to be true for the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. So That doesn't mean over the long run, it won't make sense to dollar cost average. And by the time you retire, you've got a big account. But I don't see the need to be fully invested. I do think the stock market, just using the S&P as a guide, I think that could go to 7,000. I'm relying on. I was trained at Merrill that you got to follow a lot of different analysts, and you got to pick the one that you feel makes the most sense. And that's what makes sense to me, is we're going to have a blow off rally. And it could go into November, or it could end. Everything can change in a dime. And be scared of the bond market. If it rolls over and dies, everything falls with it. But defensive mutual funds that pay dividends, those might all make sense. I don't want to tell you not to do it. I really think if you're thinking about funds, I'm not going to change my mind. I think the best single fund or asset you can buy in an account is the Sprott Physical Silver Trust. It's $8. It's physical silver. You can trust him. Of course, the storage, the brokerage firms, they could do an MFS. If the system goes down, they can claim your assets, and then you got to duke it out with an attorney. But if you want money in an account, or I think you can own the Sprott Asset Trust at home. I think silver could be $80, but more than that, I think silver could be $800. So that's where I would go. But right now, I'm trying to see if these trades can work. None of the stocks, I don't know, 15, 20 stocks we talked about, I didn't write them all down. For a January effect, none of them. Really, maybe one had a reasonable January effect rally. But I think we can still get some upward movement. Root had a great day today. MRO, Marathon. I like it. I like it. I like it. Its high for the year is 30, the low 20. It's trading at 24. I like Marathon. When oil goes to 200, all of these stocks are going to go up. I like Marathon Oil. I like Apache. It now calls itself APA. I like that one. It's $30. The big names now, the way the oil patch works, if you can call it a patch, the premier names start to move, and they haven't finished their move. They move, then you get the secondary stocks like MRO will move, then the third, and then the really risky ones move. But let's just look at for example, Chevron is, it's already 155. Amazing. Chevron's probably the best. Some would say it's the best oil company out there. 155, that's still worth buying, but it's making new highs. I can barely read. It's so annoying. Exxon's 104. And that's a classic stock where If it gets to 90, it goes, but the high's 120. I think Exxon's a great buy. I don't know if Royal Dutch Petroleum is still a company or if they merged back. They merged back with Shell. I don't know the symbol. Anyway, Royal Dutch and Shell are good. Oxy might be good. I think all the majors are. It's not too late to own them, because when the geniuses on Wall Street start pitching mutual funds to you in the oil and gas space, those stocks will go up. This idea that the earth is going to overheat because of oil and gas may be true. And I'm certainly one that's petrified by climate change. But I don't think you can change human behavior as it relates to oil and gas. And gas is the cleanest energy out there. Coal's the one. Coal's the one that needs to be put into the ground. But we're doing it. Keep doing it. Devon's a great company. Devon's a great company. In fact, let's see where Devon's trading. Yeah, 43. Near its lows. My screen doesn't tell me the dividends. But I like any of these oil companies that pay dividends. But Devon's a great company. I think Carrizo, for a smaller company, is excellent, well managed. Contango has changed. It used to be brilliant. I think it's changed, but it's still a good company. A lot of these companies are going to be bought up. I like that one, Indo, INDO. Just I went to one presentation, but it makes a lot of sense to me. They have concessions that are attractive to major oil and gas companies, and they would just sell once if the market for oil and gas gets quote unquote hot. I don't know. You probably know other names. Yeah, it is INDO. Those are good. I mean, I recognize the symbols. I don't know if the market's telling us, but Finger looks a lot better. Finger looks a lot better. It doesn't feel like it's running. I wish I had bought calls 2 or 3 weeks ago when no one wanted the stock. The premiums must be going up. But as we've been saying all along, there's several events that should start being announced with Finger. When, I'm not sure, but it's been 4 months since September 11th when that shelf registration was announced. I don't want to run through everything again, but yeah, I would think you could expect I would say that you might be right. You might be right. And it's a Kramer special, and it's an Alpine. special. So those are the reasons maybe that's doing it. I don't know. I mean, I can't give you any insight on Triple M, but it's a, I think it classifies as a defensive stock. I think the run up that's going to happen if it happens over the next weeks or months, is going to be in all the names. They'll get overextended. But the Triple M and others are the kind of stocks to hold in a recession or even depression if you're going to be invested, because they do pay dividends and they do reflect the overall economy. So yeah, I like it, but I don't have anything to particularly add to what you know. Devon sells cartoon balloons in town. I didn't mention MRO, I don't think, before, but Marathon's a good company. Look, they're all good now. They've all been trimmed down. They all are in their core areas. They're lean and mean. And if we go to war, oil could go to $200, $300 a barrel. If we don't go to war, oil could go to $200, $300 a barrel. If we go in a depression, oil could still go up because of the demand in places like China, Mexico, Southeast Asia, Africa, the Middle East, Russia. There's a world of people that want to live the way we have lived. And looks like Finger's going to squeeze first. Okay. Could be. I think it's going to be ZJYL, but I don't know. Southeastern, I would say that it's a hybrid situation with NextBridge. Because of the legacy shorting, which was confirmed. I mean, to all those people that say it doesn't exist, it's just algorithmic trading. Richard Hoffman, who is an attorney, and he wouldn't, I don't think he's capable of hyperbole, except in his sense of humor. He said he's heard that they've found 20 or maybe 25 million shares they can't locate. FINRA said 2.5 million. Well, that's a big difference. And the whole number is much bigger, I think. So NextBridge is private. But I think because of all of the counterfeited, fraudulent shares that exist, it really isn't free of the public markets. And that goes both directions. On the one hand, it's apparently using Roth Capital. Roth Capital, I know the head of investment banking there. He's a friend of mine. And they have good analysts. But like all investment banks now, there's no real retail demand for any stocks. So if they come with an offering, the money that's going to fill out the offering is just the shorts. It's just the big funds that sold the stock at higher prices, drove it down. They have that money sitting there with unclosed positions, unsettled positions. They just give that money into an offering, get a bunch of warrants, and that's what happens. That's the way Wall Street is now, and no one cares. Gensler doesn't care. Friedman doesn't care. The Colbert, whatever his name at OTC, he doesn't care. Robert Cook doesn't care. They just don't care. But so the negative is, if NextBridge were to go public and were to tap into the public markets, they have this legacy where the criminals, in my judgment, have sold 500 million shares which don't exist. It's just going to weigh it all down. And as soon as they're public, their stock price is going to be crushed. I don't think they should go public. NextBridge is doing a pretty good job of behaving as if it is a public company. And I think that's a credit to the team they have and the leadership they have. So they're essentially doing the reporting as if they are public, which is great for all of us. I would say the main difference between a public company and a private company as it relates to shareholders is liquidity. That's a blessing, though, because the criminals can't crush the stock price. On the other hand, it's a negative because if everything gets hot and bothered, you can't sell if the value runs up. But they don't let any stocks get overbought anymore. But maybe that'll come back again. But in terms of being private versus public, you can still get a dividend. You can still have engineering reports and big investors and value in the stock. You can't margin it. You can't hedge it unless you're a big person, you can, but not as one of us. I really hope that NextBridge stays private at least until this, what I believe is an enormous counterfeit share position, is taken care of. But a private company can do a lot of things that a public can't without getting approval or disclosing it, and they still have to be honest. They still have to update the accounting, and they have to give you quarterlies and annual reports and all that. But it's not quite as strict as it once was, anyway, with public companies. NextBridge should not go public because the brokerage firms will just transfer 500 million shares of non-existent shares into broker dealers, into your accounts, and we'll just go on as if nothing happened. But I don't know if I've answered what your real question is. There's a lot of things to discuss, but I guess from an investor standpoint, the paramount thing is liquidity, or being able to exit your position. From the current marketplace and the market corruption and indifference, I'd rather be a private company than public. The only way to be public is if you don't need money. All right, you sent me an email. All right, I'm going to go to FedEx and get that. I'm still waiting to hear what the final iteration of the deal is. And only then would I say, all right, and I'll try to explain it. And I'll probably, for the people that sent me emails, I'll probably have to talk to you. I'm not soliciting in terms of, because I'm not allowed to, but I can then have the company contact you directly. And if you're an accredited investor, you have the ability to make that assessment yourself. Frankly, it's not like you can say you're accredited and nobody's going to challenge it. But if you say that, they presume that you know what you're doing. So you don't have much grounds to be upset if something goes wrong. A DBMM up 400% in 2 weeks. Well, it could be because of the Kramers being in trouble. It could be because of Alpine being in trouble. It's not too risky, Robert, in my opinion. I'm trying to remember. I think I got mine by FedEx. But it came, and I think they tracked it. But once your shares are issued to you and sent to you, even if you haven't received them, you should be able to call the transfer agent and they will have a record of your shares. It is risky in the sense that they could be lost and you have to pay to get them reissued. That's expensive. Do not sign the back. I mean, I don't know what brokers say anymore, but I always told people, do not sign this. Do not sign this. Take a Xerox of it if you want to send a signature, or just get a stockpile, which looks like this, and sign that. And then the brokerage firm will staple it, and they can enter it. I mean, the transfer agent, they can enter it in the system. I don't think it's too risky at all. No, I don't think it's too risky. Because I have these now, but AST has this recorded electronically. I have the physical forms. When I say electronically, what I mean is they have it in their computerized records. For me to get these back in, if NextBridge were to go public, for example, for me to get these into a form I could trade at, say, Merrill Lynch, I would need to have it go. This is one of the schemes they have. They only let you be in this electronic netherworld where they can lie to you about whether your shares are real or not. But I mean, we don't have any choice. So one of the advantages of having it already in electronic form and not physical form at the transfer agent, it won't ever cost you more money. You won't have to go through delays. You might not have to go through one of these nightmare brokerage firms that haircut the bid, and but we're not there yet. And I don't think we'll be there for a long, long time, where AST won't work with any of us to accept our shares inexpensively. No, Farrell, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, uranium is from I'm totally anti-nuclear power, totally anti-nuclear power. I think what happened at Fukushima Daiichi is an extinction level event. Barack Obama came out and said that Americans had nothing to fear. Our only responsibility was to stay informed. And I took him at his word. I've tried to stay informed on that. You had at least 3, and it's probably 4 complete meltdowns. One of them was in a clean, a offline status. But the creators of this, to save money, just expanded a submarine design. So what's on top of the reactors was the storage of the fuel. They also cut the Earth down from 85 feet high down to sea level. They then had backup power and batteries that were too small. So when the tsunami came in, there was no wall to stop it. There was the backup power was gone, and then the batteries didn't work. I mean, engineers were trying to get batteries from their cars, and you had explosions at each of those. Each reactor is at least 3 times as big as Chernobyl, and Chernobyl was only a third meltdown. Each of these 100% meltdown, and for over a decade, all of that radiation is going in the atmosphere. 400 tons of radioactive materials going into the ocean that we know about. They built it on top of an underground river. They built it, obviously, in an earthquake zone. I think Japan is in a very difficult future, but we as the United States are not safe. As they spray on top of these coriums, which they can't find, they spray seawater. It goes up in the troposphere. 3 days later, it's here. But then it's over in Europe and Russia. It's the whole northern hemisphere by air. But it's in the water now, and it gets to the southern hemisphere. Every few years, there's an accident. Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island. The waste is terrible. I'm anti-nuclear power. But having said that, you're absolutely right, P Money, that there's not enough uranium. And I think there's going to be a huge price rally in uranium. I agree with you. Oh, I agree with that, P Money. I mean, with bated breath, it's reported now that Wall Street's going back to shale and all that. But this idiocy, which started a decade ago, young people are taught, women, managers, and some of the men go in and manage money, say at Fidelity. They just got rid of all oil and gas because we're not going to be in oil and gas in the future. This is sheer idiocy. Every pen I'm looking at is based on oil. My computers, my microphone, I don't have contact lenses, but glasses, medicines, clothing, the wine you're going to drink tonight, the water most of you drink, it's all flown in. It's just preposterous. We're going to continue to use oil and gas. And the problem, P Money, which you're obviously alluding to, is in order to keep ahead of the decline curves, you got to spend money on drilling. And the decline curves bite hard. I mean, just from memory, Saudi Arabia, I sat next to the CEO of Halliburton, and I asked him a question. It was like a lunch or a dinner or whatever. And, I mean, there was a lot of people there. It wasn't like I was anyone special. I just happened to be sitting next to him. And I asked him about Saudi Arabia and his business there and the decline curves. They don't like talking about it, but the decline curve in total in Saudi Arabia, 5% per year. So just to stay at 9, 10, 11 million barrels a day, which I don't think is where they are anyway. You know, put it another way, let's call it 10 million barrels a day they're producing. After 1 year, they're down 500,000. 2 years, they're down 1 million. After 10 years, they're down that whole amount. So you got to keep drilling. Now, one thing offsets it. In the Garwar field, they're water flooding it. But that special K zone could water out at any time. And then you'll have the kings say to the world, we're going to save the rest of the Garwar field for future generations. But Saudi Arabia is already drilling horizontally, doing the kind of drilling the United States is drilling. And the days of spending a barrel of oil to find 200 barrels of oil each barrel spent fine. It's not there anymore. The country that has the largest commercial reserves of oil probably is Iraq, but we're gone. We're gone. It's Russia, Japan, and Germany are in there. We're gone. We spent your money and your children's lives and health, and we're gone. There's only 2 or 3 countries that can truly say they have surplus oil. I think it's the UAE, Libya. Can't remember. It might be Nigeria. But the Soviet Union, Russia, is increasing its production. But is it sustainable? Have they just brought old fields online and they've reached the point where it's going to decline? Same with the United States. Same with the United States. So I think I'm a peak oil guy, and I think as long as there's 300 million, a billion, 2 billion people around the world that want to drive cars, fly, live a North American life, we're going to see much higher oil prices. And if we go to war, it's going to be frightening. U.S. Capital Global Investment Bank. I have no idea. That's a lot of words put together that sound good. U.S. Capital Global. I don't know anything about it. Well, I would argue silver would be better in war because silver has more industrial use and demand. We used to have in the United States stockpiles of silver, essentially above ground, that could always be sold to tap down the price. Now silver is completely manipulated in the paper markets, as is gold, I would argue. But we don't have that. We don't have those stockpiles anymore. So if we go to war and there's a draw on silver, prices could go up very, very dramatically. Gold is, they're both monetary vehicles, but gold is, they're both controlled too. They're both controlled, but gold is under control right now in the Western banking system. So I don't think it's going to get out of control any more than one of our stocks does, absent a surprise. And one of the things that has kept gold and silver down is Bitcoin. And I regret it every day. When I think about it, I don't get upset. But I spent 6 weeks or more in London learning about Bitcoin when it was under $1. And ultimately, I couldn't figure out what is this wallet thing, this hard wallet. I couldn't figure it out. I believed in silver and gold at that time. So I bought silver. I bought silver miners. And frankly, silver went down. And if I just put 10 grand, I mean, I don't remember. I don't know. I put like $250,000 to work. And I, unfortunately, no benefit. If I just put 25 grand in Bitcoin, you'd be calling me king. But I didn't, because I thought I could do silver and come back to it. That was my simple rationale. And I just couldn't understand what a freaking heart. And I'd ask people, no one heard. People looked at me like I was really mental. So I didn't do it. Yeah, it was bad engineering. But what's scary right now There was a huge earthquake on the western side of Japan on a peninsula. There's at least two, but I think there's three nuclear power plants there. And the earth went up in many places 80 to 100 feet. It's impossible that those plants weren't destroyed, but it's not in the news. It's not in the news. And I went to, I had a really nice evening the other night. And it was nice to know they delivered these peppers to us and they said from Japan. I wouldn't eat any food from Japan. None. They're moving radioactive waste around the island. Why? So there's no, if cancers go up, they'll go all over the island. So you won't have these pockets, these anomalies. It's so evil, the thinking. They might just be stunned. They can't realize their island is destroyed. And if I were wealthy, which I'm not, I'd go down to South America and buy real estate because I think Tokyo is going to be evacuated. And I got to go somewhere. Well, this I don't like. I don't. China has built a lot of coal plants. They're building these reactors. And China has a water problem. China has a water problem. On the other hand, at some parts of the season, they have all this flooding. If climate change comes, the third pole, you got the North Pole, the South Pole, what's nicknamed the third pole, which are those mountains, K and, the one that everybody wants to climb. All I can think is Tibet. It's not called Tibet. Everest, Mount Everest. All those ice packs are the third pole. Well, in a warming situation, that all goes away. And China has real problems. I'm not saying the world will have problems too. But to build that many reactors without enough water, it bothers me. But they're building their plants. They're building their robots and factories while we're bombing deserts and assaulting mountains for trillions and trillions of dollars. China is setting itself up to be an economic powerhouse, which it is already. Now, I've heard that the next generation of reactors, the fourth generation nuclear power plants, the smaller ones make more sense. But you got to remember, our bodies, our dogs' bodies, our trees, our food, we have no defense against the waste, the radioactive waste. We can't smell it. We don't feel it. We can't taste it. And we're creating atoms or particles underneath the protection of the magnetic the magnetosphere that protects us from the radiation from the sun. We're creating these things underneath, and after eons of development, we don't have the protection. It affects our DNA, and when you hear a half-life of 10 years, for example, well, that means it's going to be around over 100 years. But some of this stuff has half-lives of 100 years or 1,000 years. That's essentially forever for us. It's in our fish. The meal the other night, they had these peppers. I had one bite. When I heard it was Japan, I had one bite to be polite. And then I worried I shouldn't have even done that. All it takes is one particle to be in your body pulsating, and you can't even see it, to cause cancers. And there's going to be more cancers, particularly in California, Oregon, Washington State, because the water is full of radiation. And as the water cycle continues, It's just our future, and it's a tragedy. I'm totally against nuclear power, but everyone loves it. Helen Caldicott, a doctor, Australian, she said that if the fourth Daiichi building collapsed, which it looks like it did in another earthquake, she would get her children out of Boston and bring them back to Australia. She doesn't talk as much as she used to. But she said about the United States, if we didn't use dryers, we just hung our clothes out to dry, we could get rid of all our nuclear power plants. DBMM is up. ZJYL is down. LGIQ is up a little bit. I've got all these other stocks now. Let's see what. Yeah. See what CAUD is doing. It's down 4 to 103. Yeah, they are. They have been. There you go. $3. It's looking like it's moving. Who's retired now? Who was I talking about? Oh, Obama. That's about when, Stephen, that I was told. What I remember is 2011. What trips in my mind, it might have been 2010. It's certainly 2011. And Stephen, if you put $100 in it, Garn is one to watch. Yeah, I'm starting to think we're not going to get our bumps in these stocks, and we have to start playing some of the rest. I happen to agree with you. Uranium stocks, the precious metals, oil and gas, and we may just have to go with what we have rather than waiting for a score. I don't know about that, Miles. There's a lot of people that feel the way you are. I think Al Gore was well-meaning, but I think what no one, including Al Gore, me, anybody, can predict the whole system that is the planet, how it's going to react. You can't deny it's an experiment we're going through, putting all this carbon back in the atmosphere and methane and all that. But ultimately, what no one talks about, it's population. We put pressure on the planet by a large population. And our ability to have a large population and frankly, to empower women, or old guys like me, is oil and gas. It's oil and gas. Get rid of slavery, in my opinion, oil and gas. I know there was the Civil War, but machines, what was it, the cotton gin, things like that were invented and run on oil. And I'm not saying it got easier for human beings right away. And there was a lot of indentured servitude instead of slavery. It's the same thing. But we live the life we live because of oil and gas. But Miles, there's I told you about this book. I wish I could remember the name. I just can't remember the name. It's not that big a book, but it had a lot of ideas about the Earth, and every chapter was a different concept about the changes coming, climate, and all that. But one of the things is that our entire solar system is going through a part of the Milky Way right now that's thicker. This is how I remember it. I'm not a scientist. So the pressure is building up as we're spinning quickly into this, and it's having an effect on the amount of sun and heat that our planet is receiving, and it's making it worse. On the other hand, apparently the sun is dimmer now. It's not having the same solar flares. So that's a positive. There's no way anyone can predict all of this. But I do know once, Miles, you notice that heat is trapped in our atmosphere because we've moved the parts per million of carbon from 180 or 200 to 500 or 600 parts per million. It'll be too late. There'll be no discussion at that point. But ultimately, that's why a lot of our movies are like that. We're probably going to end up living inside of things, air conditioning, anyway. It's not for us to totally figure out now because we don't know. And I don't think it's a scam, but I think it was highly ambitious to make predictions on a global system that has been here for what, 5.5 billion years, 4.5 billion years, 6 billion years, and try to fine tune and make a prediction for the next 10 or 15 years. I think that's really asking a lot out of your brain power. Yeah, I'm not impressed with Trudeau's. That's his last name should be Castro. Russia has these new nuclear technologies that are very small, like you can carry it with you. I don't like any of that either, but I don't know. It's all a bigger thing than I can change. All right, we only have 12 minutes to go, and I feel like hanging up. So I think I might hang up. Unless there's a quick question or two. I could wait till the close. I could read more from Spa about Harry. Where was Willie and Papa? I could finish this fractional reserve bit. That'll take us to the close. It's only about 4 paragraphs, but I got interrupted. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 created a fractional reserve banking system for the United States. This is what I think they've done to our security system. I'm the only one saying it, so I'm obviously wrong, but that's what I think it is. This means that each member bank was required to maintain a balance on account with the Federal Reserve in an amount representing a fraction of the deposits its customers have made with it. The bank could issue loans to borrowers with the rest of those deposits. In other words, banks made loans in amounts many times greater than the amount of their required reserves. For example, if reserves ratio was 1 to 10, a bank with 100 million reserves with the Fed would be empowered to loan out 10 times the amount to $1 billion. This is the exact same thing they're doing with GTII and Finger shares. And it's predicated on the same idea. No one asks for their money all at once. You only need 10% of it in the bank. A simplified model of fractional reserves banking money multiplier effect illustrates how a deposit of, for example, 1,000 with Bank A would allow it, after setting aside 10% or more, to lend $900. The borrower then deposits the 900 with its bank, Bank B, which after setting aside 10% could lend out 810, and then the next one, so on and so on. And that's what happens in the securities market, as far as I'm concerned. This is high power money and credit expansion, as one original deposit becomes the basis for subsequent rounds of additional bank credit. Of course, it can go in reverse. That's what causes a depression, and that's really what the Fed's worried about. Changing the reserve ratio is monetary policy that central banks have used to manage economic conditions. Lowering the reserve requirement to loosen credit conditions at one time, or raising reserve requirements to tighten them at another. Anyway, I'll stop there. It's too boring. Too boring. Who created all this? Well, I think we did. I think it's been the last 400 or 500 years of the Industrial Revolution. I think the modern banking system started in Italy, Holland, Scotland, and the British Empire. But if you want me to go really Looney Tune on you, it might be the Anunnaki and the privileged elite they left behind. I don't know. But the idea that wealth can grow every year, interest rates, it's just not possible in a closed system, and will destroy our planet if we continue to seek these riches. Now it's just concentrated with 1%, but it's destroying the world. And I'm not a communist, by the way. Who do I think is in control? I'm not sure anyone is really in control, but I would say the banks are in control right now. They control the media, they control our government, but it's also the military industrial complex. It's the pharmaceutical industry, and it's probably big agriculture. And I'm probably left someone out, but that's who has power. And Netanyahu brags that he controls Congress. I don't know how real that is, but yeah, I'd say it's those 3 or 4 industries that, particularly the banks, that control everything. If the entire population set the world on fire and a man like Noah, what would happen? I don't know. I hope and pray that God has a plan to help us. But I remember from one of the books I read, and I'm going to say it was a book written by James Lovelock, but I could be wrong. When people moved to Greenland 200 or 300 years ago, there was a warming period, and where they built their towns and built their houses and their farms was green. But that period went through the, I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it's the Little Dryas or something. It went through this period where it got cold again. And you remember the stories about Hans Andersen skating on anyway, it got cold again. And Greenland got covered with ice again. So these people are there. They've got their churches. They're praying to God. But God doesn't do anything about the climate or the change. So I don't know. I don't know what would happen. I think what happened with Noah, it's possible anyway, that there was a civilization, whether it was kind of only from Earth, developed over time from Earth, or possibly it was the Anunnaki, those who from heaven came, who had some impact on that. And we're learning a lot at Göbekli Tepe right now. But regardless, whether it's, and it doesn't change my belief in God either way, but I think the flood was devastating. And I think it's quite possible that a lot of people survived in the mountains. And then they came down, and maybe that's what Göbekli Tepe is. I can't pronounce it. But I think they came down and taught us farming, taught us how to make bricks, taught us some of the technologies that existed before. But I don't think there were very many of those and that survived. So. But I don't know how that relates with Noah. Oh gosh, that's tough, Stephen. For you to have information and to see around the corner, so to speak, and then you're not able to do it, and you can't go to your home. I'm going to Alexandria to visit a friend this weekend. My brother lives over there. It's a great place. Thank you, Miles. I know short sucks. Well, I don't know if that's the Bible. That's one interpretation. It sounds more like Jehovah's Witnesses or other. I don't know. I'm not. And by the way, I'm not taking a stand one way or another. It's not, that story is not what I grew up learning, as far as I know anyway, in the Catholic Church. But I do believe that our experience here, as my father said, is but an anteroom, and that there's something afterwards. I don't know the answer, and I don't pretend to, and I love it when people understand it and tell me what they think. I try to find the commonality rather than the exclusion, and I can't believe that God doesn't love everyone equally. That's how I see it. All right, CAUD closed at 105. HNRC, darn, it's cheap. 0.0216. Logic closed at 0.028. ZJYL closed at 827. DBMM closed at 0.0058. And what was the other one we were looking at? Oh, NVIDIA. Let's just see where it closed. Up 110 at 785. All right, that's it. Christ has died. Christ has risen. Christ will come again. So many text messages. All right, so I'm going to sign out. Yeah, I guess I was raised Catholic enough, and I was confirmed, and I, had first Holy Communion and all that. But when my parents divorced, my mother rejected the faith. However, I think even though she described it in whole different ways, I think her outlook in life was pretty Catholic, but she wouldn't see it that way. And she said it's a difficult church for women. And it was for her, and I can see her point. All right, NVIDIA's down 80 cents. Thanks, short. Oh, I guess that's what it does say. Short sucks, or short sucks, or shorts suck. I don't know. That's a tough, but all right. I'm going to say goodnight and wish everyone peace, love, and happiness. I also, if you think of it, pray for peace, because that's my penance that I was given. So I'm putting it off on you a little bit, but I also think it's a reasonable thing to pray for. And don't forget to pray for Jenny L, because it's the long slog afterward while everyone forgets. That is difficult. Yeah, 12 years. Wow, 12. I think I went to 2 years, but it might have overlapped a little bit further, maybe 2.5, 3 years. I don't know. But I moved around a lot in my life. But when I was with my dad, we always went to mass. We always went to holy days. He was, my dad almost became a priest. Then he met my mother. But he was a good man, my father. He's right. He's right there. That's my dad. And he was always he never expected more out of you than he expected out of himself. And he always believed. But he didn't proselytize. He just went about living his life properly. And if others followed, that was great, because he was a leader. Everyone loved him. And when he wrote a book, and when hang on, maybe Ham wants to talk to you. All right, I'm hanging up right now, so let me call you back. Anyway, when he wrote a book, which he did, he held an event. The place was packed with people from all over the world, all over the country, Seabees, Marines, poor people, wealthy, they're all there. And they would all tell me how much they loved my father. Anyway, I'm going to sign out. I have to call Ham back. I really thank everyone for joining in. As ever, I appreciate that you tolerate me when I don't know what word to do. I go on tilt a little bit, and I'm just going to have to keep trying better. Hey, John, I wouldn't mind if God has it in mind that I could have children, but I'm very old, and I realize that time may be gone. So there is a season for everything. So anyway, cheers to everybody. We'll talk tomorrow, and happy trading.